So looking at the directions, we're going to connect our white wire to a positive 12-volt switched source. All right, and we're going to connect our red wire to a 12-volt unswitched source. And look what it says. It says, with wiring an unfused source, install 3-amp fuse in line. So this looks to me like the perfect place to put our unswitched, meaning always on. It's a little confusing, but unswitched means always on. It doesn't need a switch to turn it on. All right, so our red wire is going to go to our 3-amp. Our white wire is going to go to our switch source, and we're going to figure out how to do the nighttime dimming feature, which is the orange wire. We want these gauges to dim when the headlamps come on. And then, of course, the black is easy. That's ground. All right, so that's wiring of the gauges. Okay, with the panel pulled, here you can see the clear vacuum line, and you can see the other two lines right there. One's the transmission gauge, and the other one is the engine oil. And you can see kind of where they're coming in from. Right through there, and essentially I just fed them through that little area right there. That white thing in the background is all the way down towards the floor, so you can kind of see. So I just basically took off that, and next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this piece right here. And there's 2 screws, and then there's some, I'm not sure whether they're 8mm or what, but I'll tell you. 7mm, and it looks like there's some 7mm guys up here, and I'm going to just kind of try to peel this up and back because my goal is to get the wires up into the A-pillar, and you can kind of see where they need to come from, and I could probably fish them through, but I don't want to get them snagged or crimped or broken or anything, so I'm just going to kind of go the extra few steps. Just not another one, and take off those 7mm and the 2 screws. All right, so this is the top of the dashboard, and you can see I've got the vacuum. There's the vacuum hose, and then I've got the 2 electrical wires for the oil and the trans temps. And they'll come out alongside. As you can see, there's a lot of room there to feed it up. So here we are in the side fuse box. You can see the vacuum line and the other 2, and they are safely going behind everything, and they will continue to go to the gauges, which will be up on the A-pillar. And the way that I was able to get them up, that's actually looking straight up. The way I was able to get them up there was I just used a coat hanger that I grabbed like this, and I put a little hook on the end of it. If you look through the windshield, this is outside of the car looking through the windshield, you can see, and then I just fished this down and grabbed them and pulled them up. Alright, back down to the car with our mess of wires, and we know very simply that we've got to run 4 wires down into here. 2 that go to fuses, 1 that goes to ground, and 1 that will ultimately go to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with 2 hands, I'm going to carefully select the items that need to get dropped down the hole and come out here, and then I'll catch back up with you there. And when you separate it out, it doesn't look nearly as bad. We've got 1 gauge and then 2 sets of wires going to a gauge, and then everything splitting off, and then plain and simply 4 wires, 1 switched, 1 unswitched, 1 ground, and 1 to the switched headlamp. That will be dropped down the side. And a few seconds later, there they are. Little tip, tape them together. It's easier to push it down through, you just have to be careful. Alright, so at this point it's just a matter of wiring everything up. I pulled this off and didn't like it because this nut and this washer are together, so that means my ground would have been touching this plastic. I found a ground that I like much better right here, so that's where I'm going to go for my ground. 1 down, 3 to go. Okay, so before you connect anything inside the car, you've got to get your pod ready. And here's the pod, and here's the original A-pillar. You may want to paint your pod to match the factory color. But what you're going to want to do is these two guys need to get mated up, like so. And then we're going to have to drill some holes for the wires to come through. So I'm going to line that up and basically figure out where my holes go by figuring out where the holes are in the pod. So we've got a lot of flexibility there. They can come anywhere around this area right here. My vacuum is actually already tapped into all these lines, so that's going to have to be a pretty big hole. And then the other two, I'm just going to have these black lines. Just remember, you're going to have 2 wires that go to each gauge. One from the sending unit and one coming back out for the power. So I'm going to get ready to drill some holes. I got to figure out where exactly the holes are going to be drilled, and because your pods are not a replacement for your A-pillar, they fit on your A-pillar, because your A-pillar's got these little bracket things that help it hang on to the car. So unless you fab something for your pods, I'm just going to go ahead and do like the directions say and put my pod over the stock A-pillar. Time to figure out where the holes go and drill the holes. Okay, so with our holes drilled, now it's time to feed this wire mess through not only the A-pillar, but this one as well. So those are the wires that got to go through that hole and that hole. That's why I did that one so much bigger than the rest. Alright, let's get it done. Okay, so here we are about halfway done. It is a bit like herding cats, but it is certainly doable. Well, I got the wires a sizable way through, and I had to put in that gauge, so now I'm going to do the other 2 gauges. And they're in the pod, but not wired up. So next, I gotta run these 2 wires back through to get to that one and that one. So, okay, so I've run them back through, but I'm not going to connect them yet because this is the connector with 4 wires, and getting way down in there, might have to pull the pods back out to connect them, because it looks like it might be a little bit tricky in there, but I'll figure it out and let you know what I find out. So this is going to be the trickiest part of the whole install, because everything's got to be done right up here at the dashboard. Got the 2 lines coming up from the sensors and then the vacuum line. All need to get plugged in right here and now. And then I also need to get the power stuff to those other 2 gauges right here in this small closed confined space. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to work on that. So rule number 1 for these 2 identical connections, make sure you know which one is which. I labeled one of them trans, and make sure you connect it to the right gauge. I know my trans gauge is all the way down there at the end, so that's the way I'm going to wire mine up. Vacuum's pretty easy because it's completely different. Your gauges will probably definitely differ depending on which 3 gauges you got. After running power and the sensors to the pods, we shoved all the wires down here, and now we've got our wires. Alright, so now at this point our black wire, which is our ground, is grounded up, and up here I've got the switched source right there, and our constant source fuse tap right there. So those are in. I have not done anything with that guy yet. You can take a slot head screwdriver and easily, gently pry that out. And this is with the battery in, with the battery connected. And pull this whole thing out. All right, so for the purposes of finding which wire we need to cut into for the headlamp, the lights are currently off, as you can see here. And what we're looking for is, if we have constant power right now, that's not what we're looking for. We don't want a wire that has constant power. I'll give you an example. If I tap into this, if I tap into the orange line, we're seeing 1226, and I know the other orange line is, again, sending a reading, okay? So those are not the ones we're looking for. That's constant power. We're looking for switched power, basically at the switch, okay? Black is ground, white, I don't think it's going to give us anything, okay? But I think our suspects are going to be this guy right here. So he is not giving us a reading, okay? This one on the end. Okay, so with him not giving us a reading, what happens when we turn the switch? Look at that. So that's on, off. That is a potential for our switched power, a line that we can cut into. Okay, so that's how easy that is. And just to see if we have options, I'm going to go ahead and tap into this guy right here. He's unswitched, meaning he's got constant power. All right, so how about the purple one? Purple one is not giving a reading. And when okay, so the purple one is not a potential. All right, and now I am at the very end green one, and I'm not getting anything. But if I turn the switch, battery's starting to go dead. All right, but you can see it's switched power. So our two potential victims for switched power is going to be the two end ones, the green one and that light blue one. And I'm going to pick the one that's easiest. So I'm probably going to go with this green one. That is how you identify switched power at a switch. Okay, so earlier, if you remember, we identified this green wire here as being dependent on the switch for the headlights. So this is my wire that I made green, and the end has got a place for 3 wires. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to snip the existing wire and put this and tie it in, just like that. But I can't do it with the cameraman. Alright. Step 1, slice into the wire. Step 2, pull some wire sheath back. And now it'll just be a matter of putting the butt connector in and squeezing it down, I hope. Okay. So I squeezed down on those butt connectors and teed into the line and put the wiring harness back on the switch. I'm just going to kind of not put the switch completely back in there yet, but let's see what happens here. Alright, so car's been running for a little while. Trans temp is working. Oil temp is working. Vacuum is working. I think everything's good. Oh, and the switch works. If I turn the switch like that, those get brighter in the daytime. That's daytime driving. Nighttime driving. So all is well. Well, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video series. It's always fun making these videos. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a question or a comment in the comments, and I'll get right back to you. So if you found value in the video, please do me a favor, subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next video.